Hey everyone, welcome to 3 Beers Deep, also known as Patrick taking a break from playing Bloodborne because that's all he's basically been doing since it showed up on Wednesday evening. I wish I could spend this time right now and tell you what I think about Bloodborne. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it just a video game? I can't say anything. Look for my impressions of Bloodborne on Kotaku.com. Later today, when the embargo lifts, we're also going to do a live stream in which we'll start from the very beginning of the game, and I'll walk you through what I know, what I've learned, and maybe we'll even check in with the character I've created that is much later in the game. I don't even know where I'm going to be at that point because as soon as I turn this off, I'm just going to keep playing some more. But look forward to more Bloodborne later today and in the coming weeks as I play through the rest of the game and watch as the community digs in and finds all the stuff that I did not find in that game. So let's get straight to your questions. I've got someone showing up to play the game with me today, so we're basically going to go until they show up, and then I'm going to turn this camera off. So it could be a short show, it could be a little bit longer. We'll see. Mouthy Knives asks, Mouthly Knives, sorry, let me be specific. How are you doing today? Also, what do you find is the most relaxing game? Not Bloodborne. Those games are stressful. Probably the most relaxing game I've played in recent memory is Grow Home. It's a Ubisoft downloadable game that you don't have to get through Uplay. There's some streams of it and a video in a kind of a my quick look variant on my YouTube channel in which I walk through some of the game. But it's a climbing game in which there's no real goal except exploring and climbing. And I found it to be just extremely relaxing to be just kind of making my way through that world. When you focus on the collectibles, it can be a little stressful and a little bit frustrating as you work your way through it. But just the exploration and the act of climbing I found to be just tremendously relaxing. I don't really play games to unwind because games are so much a part of not only my hobby but my career, and so I often seek other mediums in order to unwind. So podcasts, running, reading, watching movies and television shows, those are my escape. Because with video games, even when I'm not playing one for assignment, I'm picking it apart and I'm thinking, oh, well, I could probably write a story about this part of it, or maybe I want to interview someone to ask them about this. And so games often cannot be a relaxing escape for me because it often feeds into everything that I need to be doing. Like, oh, maybe this could be a video for my YouTube channel, or maybe I should stream this. Like, it's just so much goes into playing video games that often I just need to turn off the consoles in order to relax in other ways. EVH Wick, Evwick, at Giant Bomb, you really attached onto EVE Online, and all the content that you made was fantastic. Thank you. When you picked up your new beat at Kotaku, was there a reason you didn't look at EVE Online? Do you have any interest in doing regular written EVE features in the future? Honestly, I'm mostly looking forward to the new book from Andrew Groan. He did a Kickstarter to write an entire book about EVE Online. It was one that I was happy to back. Andrew is probably the other reporter in video games that has done a bunch of features about EVE Online. He became so captivated that he wanted to write a whole book about it. I did not do that. It's not so much that I've ignored EVE Online since I've gotten to Kotaku as much as I just wait for something interesting to strike me. I actually had kind of marked away an EVE Online event in which someone had swindled a bunch of money out of a company through an espionage maneuver, and I was thinking about exploring that, and I just haven't got around to researching it. I mean, EVE Online stories are really difficult because even though I've done a handful of them, there's still so much impenetrable terminology, and tracking down people is incredibly hard, and so it's just getting over the hump to be able to tell those stories is really difficult. And so while I wish I could do more of them, there's kind of barriers in place that sometimes stop me. But, if other folks are interested in hearing more about EVE Online, I will make sure and make a note of that and try and keep that in mind in the future. The Boxhead says, hey Patrick, Reese here. Hi Reese. I've been a huge fan of your work for years now and I've enjoyed your thought-provoking content. Thank you. In fact, it inspired me to try my hand at some writing myself very soon. I was interested in your thoughts on the whole gameplay is king argument. By this, I mean the people who think that games should be judged purely on how they play and not any other parts that make up the medium. People who think the likes of Journey or Gone Home aren't a game. I personally think that a game is somewhat similar to that of a recipe for food of sorts. Yes, certain ingredients are somewhat important, but doesn't necessarily mean they have to be included in every meal. Sorry that I'm going on a bit. Please condense this if needed. I didn't. Interested in what you have to say on this. Thanks, Reese. So, Reese, I try not to get too hung up on what is a video game, what isn't a video game. I think the definition is, in the eye of the beholder. I suppose to some people, Gone Home isn't a video game. I suppose to some people, The Journey isn't a video game. Essentially, what this gets down to is whether gameplay mechanics, in which I don't even think we necessarily have come up with a good definition on what that means. We can talk about them. We can describe certain mechanics, like the mechanic of jumping or shooting in a Mega Man game. But, is it require, the other idea that sometimes people bring up is skills, right? So it's basically like, is there a skill arc to the game? Like, is there something you learn and then get better at? You don't do that in a game like Gone Home. Like, you can get better at putting together the story, I suppose, but there's no sort of skill hook in the game. Does that disqualify it from being a video game? For me, it has always just come down to, I play things that I find to be interesting if, sorry, just answering a text message. I don't worry about it too much. I think if some people get obsessed with the minutia of defining what a game is or isn't, that's fine. I think they're interesting debates to have. Everything is just blowing up on all my phones and devices. I apologize for all the beeping happening. But yeah, I think for me, it's just I play what I want to play. I read what I want to read. And fortunately, the outlets that I write for, the other places I have that I can talk about things, whether it's here on Kotaku, if it's interesting, I want to talk about it. And whether we call that a video game, 2 words, or video game, 1 word, or it's, what is a visual novel, right? Like, visual novels that don't have any puzzle elements. Like, are dialogue trees, does that mean it's a video game? Like, probably, sure. Ultimately, I come down on the side of who cares? Like, I just really don't give a damn if we should be talking about whether it's a game or not. If it's something interesting, if it's a story worth sharing, I think that is the only qualification that makes it, something potentially worth discussing or talking about with other people. So, is this a game falls into the camp of are video games art at this point for me? It's a question that is not worth having. The debates are in semantics that I don't think need to be sort of rehashed over and over again. Let's just move on and talk about the stuff we like. Anonymous asks, Patrick, at this point, you've earned a drink. Oh, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and have a sip of this water. I'm going to be having a beer soon. The friend that's coming over to play some Bloodborne is bringing some beer. So just assume that was all vodka, Anonymous. I'm going to see Video Games Live this week. I was wondering if you've ever been to a live video game music event. Not for a long time. The last one I was at was actually... I've never been to Video Games Live, but I went to like the Final Fantasy series ones. I can't remember what they were called, but it's the ones where like Nobuo Uematsu oversaw it and attended some of the events. I went to that one in Chicago, actually, Rosemont, which is a suburb outside of Chicago, and I actually got to interview Nobuo Uematsu, which I think I've done twice. He remarked at my hair. He thought it was really goofy and funny. Like when I sat down before the translator immediately said he really liked my hair, so I took that as a enormous compliment. But have a good time, man. It seems like a ton of fun. I'd like to go to another one sometime, but just have not had the chance. I would love to go to the Zelda one. I think there was one in Chicago a year or two ago, but I didn't go to it. But I would love to go to the Zelda series at some point. Cool Snake asks, I finished Dark Souls for the 3rd time today. I'm the greatest man that ever lived. I hope you had a nice day because I know I had it. Cheers, Nick. Dude, that's fantastic. Finishing Dark Souls, extremely satisfying. Up there on the, some of my top favorite moments playing a video game. Certainly live streaming a video game. Doing that with a crowd was amazing. So way to go, man. I'm not going to be Bloodborne today, but hopefully I'll feel the way you do in a week or two. Anonymous asks, hey, Patrick, are you still planning to write more Demon Souls articles on Kotaku, like the Tower of Latria one you mentioned, or your general thoughts on the game, or comparing it to the games in the series? Thanks, and take a sip. Says Pokey number 3. I don't know if there'll be many more Demon Souls articles on Kotaku, but there will certainly be a lot of Bloodborne articles on Kotaku going forward. I do intend, once I finish Bloodborne, to essentially rank the Souls games and kind of feel through my thoughts on how all of those games suss out now that I have played Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, and I'm working my way through Bloodborne right now. I probably need to give the Dark Souls 2 DLC a shot because I have heard from many folks that it is some of their favorite Souls content produced in any of the Souls games. So if I'm going to fairly talk about all that stuff, I probably need to play the DLC as well. So look forward to that after I finish Bloodborne. My sort of plan is not only to write a big impressions piece on Bloodborne and to walk people through the game on a stream, but also to early this week discuss, is this a good entry point? If you've never played a Souls game before, but you're curious and the zeitgeist is catching you, and the fact there's not that much else to play, like, is this a game that you can jump into if the Souls games have rubbed you the wrong way in the past? That's a question I'm going to explore, and if that applies to you, you can look forward to that. I would still like to do something on the Tower of Latria. Whether I get around to that and when I get around to that, I'm not exactly sure. Anonymous asks, Patrick, is there a game in recent memory that everyone said was great and you, for whatever reason, ignored? Then you went back much later and played it and couldn't believe you skipped it. I asked because Rayman Legends was free with games with gold. That game is great, and I feel bad for not buying it at the time. Both Rayman games are fantastic. I would have to say the Souls games. I know that we're this is the 3 Souls deep Q&A at this point, but that series I wish I had been on board with day one. I wish I could have been there for Demon's Souls, excited for Dark Souls. I was there for Dark Souls 2, but I don't know. There wasn't a several-year wait. I played Dark Souls and immediately got into Dark Souls 2, so the Souls games by far are the series that I regret not getting into earlier, so I couldn't. The experience I'm having now, texting between my friends, and trying to explain and trying to figure out what's going on in Bloodborne right now is so tremendously exciting, and to know that other people have gone through that experience a number of times before makes me very, very jealous, because you can only really do that in the first couple of weeks the game is out, when everyone's still kind of figuring out what's happening. Anonymous asks, as someone who's recently gone out on his own in the world of YouTube, streaming, etc., what hardware have you invested in for your setup? So I've got this Blue Snowball mic, although I would recommend you probably get the Yeti. I might upgrade to that at some point. They're very cheap. I think they're under $100. I have an AverMedia AverMedia Extreme Cap U3. Oh, I need to invest in a better pop filter. But the AverMedia Extreme Cap U3 is the capture device I use for console stuff. And what's great about it is that because it runs over USB 3, it runs in real time. There's no lag. So when you use like what's those other ones? Basically most other capture devices, like I forget the really nice one that everyone uses. The Elgato. So the Elgato runs on USB 2, at least the last one that I messed with was. And there's a delay, so you need to plug it into a monitor and plug it in to your PC in order to capture. So with the AverMedia, I can play console games on my monitor, full screen it, and I can see the game and capture the game without having to pipe it out to multiple monitors. So the AverMedia has treated me very well. It works perfectly. I highly recommend it. There's a couple different options. There's like an actual capture card, and then there's a little box that you can get, and I have the little box. And that's basically it. Other than that, I've been lucky enough that Cards Against Humanity has invested in a lot of stuff in their production studio. But you don't really need a lot of that stuff. So let's end with these last two. Oh. Another text message. CPT Yassarian. Are you a Metal Gear Solid guy? How does this Kojima news strike you? Bonus question, favorite MGS game? So I'll probably keep a more substantial answer when we finally learn a little bit more about what's going on with Kojima. It's possible we won't learn any more, and then maybe I'll just record a separate video on Monday sort of breaking down my thoughts on it. But I think that I don't know what to think, if I'm being completely honest. There certainly seems to be a power struggle happening at Konami. How that's breaking down is going to be unclear to us and probably will remain unclear to us going forward. I mostly am worried about Silent Hills. I feel like that game probably only exists because Kojima wanted it to exist, as is the case with a lot of things that he kind of wields his power around. And it's not going to surprise me if Konami just quietly never talks about Silent Hills again. It wouldn't surprise me if they put out a little statement saying like, "Oh, we're still still thinking about it. We value our partnership with Guillermo del Toro," and then we find out later, quite innocuously, that the project has been canceled and we're not getting Silent Hills going forward. The teaser trailer for Silent Hills suggested it was going to be a much different game than PT, and if we only got PT, I think that's okay because PT is the scariest game ever made, at least in my estimation. So I think that's pretty fantastic, and I'm glad it exists. For what it means for the Metal Gear franchise, I mean that's for other people to answer. I play the Metal Gear games more out of obligation. I enjoyed 1 and 3. I hated 2 and 4, and the franchise has certainly moved more in the direction of 2 and 4. It certainly seems to be moving more in that direction with 5. I'll play 5. I'm going to play the Phantom Pain. I think it would be irresponsible not to play the new Hideo Kojima game. But what this means for the future, I mean, if after that he splits off and does his own thing, the man has expensive tastes. His games do not they cost a lot of money to produce. Is he going to be able to do something like a Kickstarter and make a new Metal Gear or Metal Gear-esque game? I highly doubt it. Does that mean he goes into his own private company and then makes mobile games in order to raise enough money to produce the things like Metal Gear? I don't know. But we're in this interesting time in which, Keiji Inafune, Hideo Kojima, Koji Igarashi, like we have a number of really notable elder statesmen in the Japanese video game industry that are breaking off on their own and trying new things. It hasn't really worked out for a lot of them. I hope Mighty Number 9 is good, but Inafune just had a game canceled, like that Pirates game he was making. Yuji Naka has his own company, Concept. No, that's Inafune. I forget what the Yuji Naka's game or company is, but have they done anything that anyone cares about recently? It's possible that a lot of these developers have just sort of like, they don't really have it in them anymore, or the games they make just don't click anymore. But what happens to the future of Hideo Kojima? I am so interested to find out because the man, regardless of how you feel about his games, he's always doing something interesting. And last question. Well, David Miracle 5. I'm watching Jaws and drinking a six-pack. Am I doing Saturday Night right, or what? You are. I hope you watched Jaws 3, The Revenge. Jaws 4? Jaws 4, The Revenge. You should watch that. It's terrible. Monkey Man 04, have you seen... Nope, we're going to skip that. Anonymous, are you still planning to play a stream of Eternal Darkness? It is one of my all-time favorites, and I'd love to see your reaction to it and thoughts on it. Absolutely. I'm still figuring out what our kind of next Let's Play game is going to be. It might just kind of be Bloodborne as I play through like a second character class. I'm not really sure exactly kind of how I'm going to fall on that and how that's going to fit into my streaming stuff. But I'd like to get another game going. I've been thinking about System Shock 2. I've been thinking about Eternal Darkness. There's a couple different games that I think would make good candidates, or maybe we do something that isn't horror related, but Eternal Darkness is a really interesting candidate. So let me know what you guys think. If you'd like to see me play Eternal Darkness or System Shock 2, let me know kind of where that falls. I think I'd prefer to play Eternal Darkness if I was going to check one off the box sooner rather than later. But let me know what you think. And that's 3 Beers Deep for this week. You can submit questions to this Q&A show at patrickklepek.tumblr.com. I answer questions there daily and then pluck from there for this video Q&A. You can listen to the podcast version of 3 Beers Deep and other audio adventures that I go on inventory management, my catch-all podcast feed. It's on iTunes. Please rate me if you have a chance to do that. It helps me get in the rankings. It helps other people get exposed to the podcast. Even if you want to write a crappy review, that's fine. I'll take it. I'll take whatever review you want to write. And if you have an Android or a Windows device, or you want to plug it into a non-iTunes software platform, you can go to inventorymanagement.simplecast.fm. There's an RSS link that you can plug into anything you can think of. You can also download and stream the episodes there as well. And that's going to do it for this week. I will see you guys all next